All right. It says we're live in five, four, three, two, one. Action. This is the end. Our bitter friend. The end. Is this the end? Our bitter friend. The end. Has World War III begun? Iran attacks Israel. Is it just more fake news? All right, guys. So I woke up this morning and I saw some headlines. It said that it was official that World War III had begun, and I thought, oh no, oh God, what has China invaded the United States? Is Russia and China and Japan invading the U.S. and Europe? And no, it turns out it's just a little skirmish between two insignificant countries, Iran and Israel. And they say, oh, but Iran supposedly has nuclear weapons, and so does Israel. And the U.S. backs Israel, and Russia and China back Iran. So it's the flashpoint event. No, chances are it's not. So the headlines are fake. It is more fake news. I think what a couple of desert backwater shitholes do doesn't have much ultimate outcome. The top stories, though, sirens blast sound across Israel after Iran launches retaliatory attack. So, well, why didn't World War III begin when what Israel attacked them recently? Is that what happened? It was carnage, eyewitnesses say. Uh, I get it, and maybe there's no reason for me to get it because there's really nothing there. It's just another, you know, hype up the scenario of a couple of backwater countries that are really truly insignificant and give everyone a little adrenaline burst and write the checks. That's the big thing is that they got to write more checks and they got to put more funding into the military industrial complex. So yeah, do I think that World War III has begun? Do I think it's a red letter day? Interesting too how they have kind of set all this up so that it all rolls out with tax day, and it's got to make you think, right? What are they trying to encode there? That fear and loathing and anxiety you feel in the U.S. anyway when you're supposed to uh, pony up, for them to, I don't know, just pony up so you'll have less spending power, really. Something for the Daily Mail says there's a step-by-step guide to surviving a nuclear, nuclear, right? As old George W. Bush Jr. used to say, nuclear. So when you've got a nuclear attack, how you can stop skin melting, why to keep your mouth open so your eardrums don't burst, and use soap but not conditioner. What you really need to know after a nuclear blast. Well, I'll tell you what you need to know after a nuclear blast. You could just kind of hang out there and watch them blow up, and as long as you don't get too much heat from the initial shock wave, right? As long as you're at least a mile out from the ground zero, I think you'd be okay. There isn't going to be really any fallout or any kind of horseshit nonsense that they promote because there just isn't much power there, right? The tests of the so-called tests of all these years that we experienced. I mean, many of us experienced it, at least like my father, for example. He was on tons of tests and he still lived to 70. I see guys dropping dead before 50 all the time right now from other factors. So I think that any kind of nuclear things is the least of our worries. Oh, good God in heaven. Like, guys at Trinity were just standing there watching, 10 megaton bombs go off and feeling the warm, crisp air from the shockwave. And they didn't even take showers afterwards, and they all lived into their 70s and 80s. So it's not like there's really any power there. They can't get the material to create high level fission or fusion. Fusion, is it fusion or fission? Fission, fissile material. Like, even though, like, in what was it, Abel and Baker and Little Boy, Big Boy, only something like 1% of the material actually even detonated or was fissionable. That So they tried to create the reaction, but a very, very small percentage of the material actually exploded, um, or started any type of reaction or lived through the chain reaction. So they're claiming now that they've got better technology, but then at the same time they claim that the lunar technology has all been lost and you can't recreate that because the guys who were involved, the scientists, they had all of the know-how, and we just can't do those types of things. So if, like, we had heavy hitting bombs back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like, and they're getting outdated today, then the chances are that that technology's been lost, just like the Apollo missions, and they just can't recreate it. They probably can't even recreate solid state rockets that can go that far, right? Like, you look at the SpaceX ones that burn up all their gas, just like lifting off the pad, and then, like, touching back down to the pad, they use up the rest of the gas. So they basically have enough fuel to get them, like, in a low Earth orbit, if they claim, right? And then they got to come right back down. And so these whole dreams of space travel have just been shelved because it's not possible anymore. So why should we believe or think that nuclear technology is more advanced? If you can't advance one of the technologies, then why should you be able to advance the other one? And so you really have to stop and question everything that's being told to you, especially in key times like this. Like, we're in a situation where they're really wanting to ramp up the fear and loathing of your average individual because there are so many other things that are really going on in the world, like special diseases being released, and other spooky things happening in your towns, and a true pandemic of flacca and obesity. So you've got fentanyl showing up on the shores and in cargo shiploads, and that's a much more pressing concern for your average American. Are these types of things: the border crisis, the obesity, the illicit chemical drugs that are super deadly, turning your kids into zombies, and just killing people left and right. And far more deaths guaranteed. There'll be far more deaths this year due to these three factors: illegal immigration, and just bad guys come across the border and slitting your girlfriend's throat right after raping her, after 5 or 6 of them rape her. That death toll will be higher than nukes ever in the history of man, even if you include Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Which are debatable whether or not they actually happened the way they did. And then the next one will be obesity. Obesity will kill far more people than nuclear weapons ever will, ever. Even if there was a World War III and they launched all their nukes right now, obesity still kills more, guaranteed. Another thing will be the flacca epidemic, right? The fact that they don't even care that Americans are at risk from those illicit drugs. In fact, they're promoting it. They're working hard to make sure that it infiltrates into your neighborhood today. All right. So um, they're saying that they're updating the HNIC over in the US of A over there, keeping them up to date daily, hourly, minutely on what's happening in the two backwater desert countries where nobody gives a fuck about anything that's really going on there. But they got to make it super important, right? It's got to be super important. Um, onto other things that are actually important. For me, at least, anyways, the 100-day challenge, Way of the Scholar Warrior. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you participating at some level, join in on the challenge, figure out some way to organize a little bit of a challenge for yourself in doing some physical activity and reading some good spiritual information. Mm, I recommend the WW3 or maybe the I Ching. I think that's a really good source of. I think it's a good source of spiritual guidance, and I think that it would be worthwhile, worth your endeavor to have a look at it. Um, don't forget to check out the old Buy Me a Coffee page. That's where I'll be putting up some of the documents concerning this new challenge. It's pretty easy to find. Just www.buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. That you put that in your browser, whether you're using Safari, Chrome, Firefox, what have you. Just type that into the browser window, and that will guide you there. Guys, the time is now to put a little something, something in the tip jar and make a one-time coffee donation. Got to keep the lead in my pencil and keep me working hard for you guys to bring you guys the good goods. But in the end, to think that World War III, that it's even an idea that's rational, I just don't think it's even reasonable. These global elites, the top dogs, the royal families of wherever, China, the US, the UK, India, they're going to have border skirmishes all the time because, they have huge prison systems that they manage. They keep everybody locked into the border with a passport, and they don't want you cruising around freely. And they had the big lockdown of 2020 that really asserted their authority as being unified, that they all agreed that everybody should be locked down on the farm for a little while. Um, they're never going to do anything like that and put themselves or their families at any real risk, because a worldwide engagement would give all the plagues, all the low level guys, even though they would be killing each other, it would give them the opportunity to also kill royal family people. And so, you would have the opportunity to, there'd be big systems of troops mobilizing, and it would give gun access to a lot more people and military weapon access to a lot more average individuals worldwide. And that's not something any of them want. And the big question of the nukes, I just ain't buying into it, man. My dad worked on those operations. He was on Task Force One. He was on Operation Crossroads. He was on Operation Starfish. He was on Operation Aurora. Um, there wasn't anything to them really. Like he said, they were just big firecrackers. And a lot of people argue with me and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, those were only 5 and 10 megaton bombs or whatever." And like I said, if that was the height of technology, if the 40s, 50s, and 60s was, and maybe into the mid 70s was the height of American ingenuity in the realm of so-called space travel and nuclear weapons, then that was it, man. That was as high as it got, and it can't ever get back up there because all of those systems have been lost. NASA themselves have said we've lost the ability to create spaceships to go to space, and so it just isn't happening. You know what I mean? Somehow they've hit a wall, whether it be a celestial dome or a brain drain, or yeah, some may suspect that since Kubrick died, right? Since Stanley Kubrick died, nobody can go back to space. And that seems to be one of the more likely scenarios rather than this WW3. So don't believe the hype, man. It's just more way to take away more of your liberties and organize your society even to an even more strict prison system, at least for the locals. Meanwhile, you just let all the criminals from every quarter of the earth flood on in and do whatever the fuck they want, rob stores, kill grandma, and all the while you um, as the local inhabitants will be further chastised and further put upon by the big governmental systems that have usurped all of your rights and liberties. And basically done away with the Constitution. You know, like the old great constitutional scholar Obama used to say, the Constitution is really just an impediment and an outdated document, and we don't really operate under its constraints any longer. So there you have it, there, guys. World War III not likely. But much love and respect to all of you out there in Happy Land. Please hit the thumbs up and leave a comment down on the video. Are you terrified? Are you hiding in your bunker? Are you huddling under your desk as those two desert countries attempt to launch skiffs at each other? I would hope not. Ad Astra per Aspera. Until next time, Lunar Light Entertainment, Frank Monday.